We're going to talk today about the lens and the camera that I'm using, and I'm currently using them right now so you get to see them in action. And the sun has set today. It's about, I think sunset was about 20 minutes ago. So this lens is the SLR Magic lens. It's a f4, and I'm currently at f4. And I do notice that the lens tends to have a little bit of blurriness at the corners at this particular aperture. Usually if I stop down, why don't I go ahead and do it right now actually for you guys, just so you might be able to see the difference. So there I went down to 5.6 right there, and a lot of times I notice it gets a little bit sharper on the corners there, but a lot of times I'll shoot with it wide open when I'm indoors. But as far as the image quality goes, as some of you guys know, I'm an interiors photographer, so I would say for vlogging, the thing is like the bomb, you know, nothing wrong with it, okay? Absolutely awesome. But for like my interiors work, for example, if I was to bring this thing out, I wouldn't even like consider it, okay? So it's just a little bit too blurry on those corners. So I just switched back to f4 for those of you guys when there's a lot of dogs coming up here, so hopefully we'll get some action. But yeah, the next thing I wanted to talk about is flaring, and unfortunately I tried to get out here when the sun was still back there, but I'm a little bit late. I'll try and put up some footage, but in my opinion for vlogging, this thing is just a bomb. It has like these really cool flares that add so much drama to your sort of, you know, a lot of times boring walking shots and stuff. So for vlogging, I absolutely love the flaring. It has kind of this cool pattern I see sometimes with a little ring over on the side that I just think is just beautiful. I almost feel like, you know, like Hollywood style shot, at least in my opinion. I don't want to mess with this dog. You know, you don't get bit by a dog in Thailand. It's like my #1 rule. But yeah, flaring is a real big issue for like if you're gonna use it for photography. When there's a light like right in front and above the lens, it has like a really nasty like cloudy flare. But when the light is coming from directly, like a sunset behind you, I think that's a beautiful flaring personally with this lens. But it's just too much for like say an interiors photographer. It's way too prominent. Okay, so great for vlogging, way too flary for interiors and professional photography. So next category we have the weight and the size of this lens, and this is the absolute grand slam of this lens. So I'm holding it right now. You got to understand the lens was made for drones. It was made to be put on drones, so you know it's so absolutely light, and it's just light as a feather. I can just hold it like right now. I'm holding it to the side, just so easy. I have it mounted on a little GX85, and it's just so light and so easy to carry, and I can also hold it close to me, relatively close. And what that does, I'm so close to the camera that it makes so I can use even these crappy on-camera mics. You know, the built-in mics on my GX85, I can use them. They're usable for vlogs. So that just makes this lens absolutely ideal as far as I'm concerned. I can use those built-in mics on my camera. I don't have to deal with audio at all. So as I was saying, I think that's a really big advantage to this lens, because the lens is what enables you to get the camera close to you, which enables you to use those in-camera mics, even in a sort of noisy situation like we're in right now. I'll talk about the build next. I really haven't had any problem. I actually really like the little focus lever. It feels really smooth to me, the focus lever, and the way the focusing works is you can actually lock the focus, and of course that's designed for, you know, when you're up on a drone, they don't want the focus moving. You just want to be able to lock that focus, and then there's a lever on the focus. It's just really smooth and sort of a pleasure to operate. Like I've done, for example, focus pulls with it. It's just really nice to move, and I just haven't had any problems with the lens. And I feel like not only have I not had any problems, of course, but I feel like it's just sort of a well-made lens for the price point. So I don't foresee myself having any big problems with the build, and you know, I just think for the price that this lens is, which is currently about 130 bucks, it's just it's just an amazingly built lens for how much you pay. Now, one section I want to jump into in this review is what I'll call exposure, and I have noticed when I put this lens on my camera, it does give me a bit more trouble with the exposure, and I believe the reason it's doing that, it does like a silhouette effect a lot because it's reading so much more in the background. So you guys can go ahead and leave a comment about that, about if you think that's because the lens or because it's a manual lens, or just because, you know, wide angle lenses do that. So it could be either one, right? But that's what I'd say. I have had a little bit more trouble, but I usually just counteract it by sort of dialing up on the exposure compensation a little. I just go a little bit overexposed. I usually, you know, about 2/3 of a stop. That usually takes care of things for me. So next section is focus, and this is one of my favorite topics about this lens because for the most part, now when I'm walking with it, like right now, it's at focus at a couple feet from me. You know, it's pretty close, but I obviously don't mess with the focus. I just leave it because it's a manually focused lens. Now if I turned around and I wanted to show you guys something, I'd have to actually focus it to infinity, which would just mean like turning that dial a little bit this way. So, you know, you do have to focus, you do have to be able to get in there and manually do things, but for the most part, when I'm filming things out there, not me, it's just set it and forget it. So you can set it at about 1 meter away, and everything after that meter is going to be in focus. So everything from 3 feet to infinity is going to be in focus, and that's because of the nature of the lens. So it's actually has that sort of GoPro technique, or sort of GoPro principles, right, with focus, where if you're able to focus on anything that's not right in front of the camera, really easy to focus, just set it about at infinity or about at 3 feet or 1 meter or somewhere in there. Everything's going to be in focus, okay? So in my opinion, focusing is sort of a pleasure, doing little focus pulls manually, and also just setting it at that infinity, or usually I set it more like at 1 meter, and that really gets it at that sort of hyperfocal distance. So focusing is easy and it's a pleasure. Another real advantage of a lens like this, a manual lens, you know, as you guys know, I love the focusing aspect, where I just sort of have to leave it alone depending on what I'm doing. If I'm holding a camera out here at least 3 feet away, I can just set it and forget it. But the next thing I want to talk about is time lapses, and this thing is a time-lapse machine, I'm telling you. And one of the big problems with using non-manual lenses where the aperture is closing every image is that there are variations in that aperture shutting down, just little mechanical variations, you know, tolerances. So when you have a manual lens like this and you set it up, you know, say you put it at f5.6, it's a manual lens, you put it there, it's not moving, right? So you don't get any of that flicker whatsoever in your time lapses. And my camera, the GX85, is just able to produce these things. Just press up a button and it makes them in the camera. It makes 4K time lapses. It's just so awesome to be able to do them that quick. I wanted to talk a little bit about this lens, the SLR Magic F4 8mm versus the Laowa, because those two are really kind of in concert with one another. Yet one of them, I believe the Laowa is f2 and this one's f4. So you're getting quite a bit of a faster lens with the Laowa. It's also manual, and they're both sort of really light, you know, great vlogging lenses that you're able to just carry with you. This is what I think everyone should be doing, you know, getting their camera close to them so they can use the in-camera mic. So they're both great lenses. Honestly, if you can afford that Laowa, I would say go for it. Why not? Especially if you could use it for other work. You know, it's going to be a little sharper in the corners, I'd say. But if you look at some of the tests online, when you stop this one down to say f5.6 or f8 thereabouts, and you compare it to the Laowa, they're really starting to get very close. So I'd say the main advantage of the Laowa is you know, it's faster, and it might be a sharper wide open. Okay, so those are the two, but they're the same, about the same weight. Everything else within those two lenses is about the same except for the price. In my opinion, if you pair this SLR Magic 8mm with a GX85, hopefully you guys have seen my other vlogs. You've seen that I don't believe in the whole flippy screen thing, okay? So I can use that mic. Don't forget, I can use the on-camera mics. It's just so great. I can flip out, get out my camera, turn it on, and it's ready to shoot, all right? As long as I'm focused and everything, and this lens has that focus lock. So I personally believe this right here is the combination for vloggers. The SLR Magic with the GX85. It's light as can be. The combo is light as can be. I can do whatever I need with it. I can get amazing image quality with it. You know, I'm a photographer. I can actually produce professional photos with this camera. You know, I might throw another lens on there depending on what I'm doing, but absolutely photo taking machine this camera is. And it's also great with video. You got the 4K, you got 60 frames per second, you got 24 and 30 frames per second at 4K. So just an absolute beast in terms of all the features and everything you're getting at a really, really crazy low price. I'd say the GX85 for the body alone is coming somewhere in at the $400 or $500 range. I don't know if you can buy them alone, but that's about where it'd be. And this lens is $130 or something like that. So crazy, insane prices for what I believe is the best vlogging combo for most people that are going to be just getting out there. You know, you want a lightweight system, something that's going to give you good quality and that's not going to be attracting a lot of attention. That's one of the big things. And of course, we talked about in previous vlogs about the IBIS, about all that other stuff, okay? Another thing I wanted to go into with this combo was the infamous, nowadays, the very pretentious, what I call pretentious B-roll. So you might be asking, how would this camera perform as far as that B-roll is concerned? So I'm gonna go ahead and go up here and sit down and try and get a little bit of B-roll, throw it up there, put it in slow motion. I'll shoot it in 60 frames per second. And I'm losing a little bit of light right now, so that kind of sucks, but you guys will be able to get the idea.